Hey everybody, we're back with another episode of Jolly SEO's TLDR. And today I'm excited to bring JP, who I've had the good fortune to meet on this time in China. So JP, thank you so much for joining us, and I'd love if you could intro yourself.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. Yeah, my name is JP. I'm from China, 100% made in China. I never been to the West before when I was 27 years old. Yeah. And the SEO was my first job. I got recruited in campus and I worked for a company in Shenzhen, which you also visited, I think it was 2 months ago, right? Yeah, actually
That's
one
right.
month ago. Yeah. So quick story short, I end up going to US to do my grad school. So I stayed in the US for 4 years, but still keep an eye on SEO. Yeah, after 4 years in the United States, I went back to China again, started to write this little blog called SEO Action Blog. It was a hobby project. And I was chasing for my dream life being a affiliate SEO, have the flexibility to travel around the world. Yeah. And then a couple of years later after COVID, I moved to Chiang Mai and I have been living here for 2 years. Yeah, that's pretty much my story. So from a in-house SEO to affiliate SEO, I also stayed a couple months in the agency, back to in-house again. The last 7 years, I was doing the affiliate SEO and being free again. Yeah, and right now I'm working on a new venture, a new business idea is connecting Chinese businesses, SEO and marketing agencies and talents from the West.
That's right. Yeah, and
Yeah, that's it.
that's how we connected. We're both in Dynamite Circle, and you posted looking for people, and I thought how perfect. In case anyone listening doesn't know, I married into China over 10 years ago. And so just the way life takes you, now my life is intertwined with China. But even
Right. I
marrying
believe.
in, it's tough to bridge that, even for me.
Yeah, yeah. I think it just, I don't know, the right timing maybe. Yeah, I started working on this new business idea January or February. Yeah, I've been in DC Dynamite Circle for about 6 years. So I love the forum. So I just posted one to see if I can connect to more people in the agencies. And then you are one of the agencies that responded. I think that's how we got connected. Yeah.
Yeah, it's my own little brief backstory related to this topic that we're going to explore is when I first came to China, I needed to find work. I was here to pursue romance, I said. So I need to find work. Like a lot of foreigners in China used my language, but for me, that was not teaching because I'm not great at teaching a classroom of kids. I did some business education, but I really started as an editor and then a writer for Chinese companies. And then I forgot all about my awesome Chinese clients for almost 10 years until this
Wow.
year. And my wife and I are always saying we should do something with this cross-cultural connection that we have. But honestly, JP, it wasn't until your post that I realized, oh wait, this company that I've been working on for 7 years, we could serve Chinese clients. And so I'm really grateful to have met you. And I wanted to see if we can share any advice for people. Maybe they don't even have as good a connection as I do to a certain culture they want to serve, or maybe unlike you, they don't have the experience of going to live in the United States for like how long did you live in the US? For 4+ years, right?
Almost, yes, 3.5 years, almost 4 years. Yeah, I did
So
my grad school in San Francisco. I believe that's close to where you are from, right? The Silicon Valley. I
that's
don't know
right,
the
yeah.
name of the city, but should be very close. And then 2 years in San Diego. Yeah.
That's a unique perspective you bring, and I have an experience here as well that not many people get. Even so, though, like even you and I, it's been some challenges in trying to figure out how we can translate, not literally word for word, but translate culturally, like what each side needs. So I'm curious, you've been thinking about this idea more than me. What are some of I want to get into the opportunities, but I think that's more obvious for people. What are some of the steps that a Western service provider, because that's most of the people listening, let's be realistic. We're talking in English right
Hmm.
now, right? are not going to be the
Yeah.
Chinese companies trying to vet the Western companies, but for the Western companies that want to find Chinese clients, what are some of the challenges they can expect to face?
Well, the number one challenge is definitely languages, right?
Yeah.
A lot of Chinese clients, businesses, they can understand, they can read and write, but when it comes to speaking, because we don't have that kind of environment, it's still very hard for them to speak and being able to communicate what they want. And then this is number one change. Like, number two is about the culture. I'm mainly talking about business culture. The way we Chinese do business is the customer journey, the sales process, that kind of relationship, as we call it, Guānxì, is kind of different. I would say very different from the Western world. So these are the two main challenges I think Western companies would face when it comes to work with Chinese company, whether it's partnerships or sell the product to China. Yeah.
We've talked about the first one privately, just for other people's benefit. I may not be looking at this right because even though I've been in and out of China for 10 years now, I'm still a foreigner, right? Maybe you can tell me what is right or wrong about this statement I'm making now.
Okay, that sounds fun.
I think even though as my particular case, American, but a non-Chinese service provider, that's that external view is attractive to a Chinese company because they have plenty of Chinese talent, but they're looking for an external partner in some cases, even though that's attractive. So they're actually looking for that quality that I possess. They're also put off because of the speaking requirement that you said. So if they see me, they're not trying to be prejudiced against me. They're actually just intimidated by the idea of trying to reach out and communicate in English.
Yeah, this is related to the culture, I would say. I don't know if you, there's like an index. People tend not to do business with strangers. It's, well, you have lived in China for a while. You probably know that people don't talk to strangers that much. When you walk on the streets, sometimes you don't have this kind of eye contact. That's very natural in China and then many other Asian countries, especially in East Asia, Japan, Korea. That's very normal. But in the Western world, it's weird. Even if you're just strangers, you don't talk to each other, yeah, on the streets. That's weird. And then that also applies to businesses. If we don't have that kind of relationship, they don't know you, they haven't seen you offline, especially, that kind of trust is not there. Then no matter how great your service is, how great your product is, it would be still very hard for the Chinese clients to work with you. Yeah, so we need to find a way to remove the friction. Yeah, one of the best way, maybe we shouldn't talk about this right now. Maybe the solution is you find a middleman, like me or some other professional agencies. They can help you deliver your brand and product, build that kind of first initial impression, and then you can introduce your product services to enter the Chinese markets. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm okay with talking about that. So it's one way we have been working together is testing that model, right? Testing
Mhm.
if you have, as a consultant, you have the trust, then you can evaluate if a service provider like Jolly is doing a good job or failing in some ways, or maybe we're doing a good enough job up until this point and then the budget should go somewhere else. And I have said to you in person, I think that's immensely valuable. And for the vendor as well, it's kind of like a lead generation or a referral partner, but it's more than that because for the service provider, I personally, sure, can speak some Mandarin and enjoy connecting with Chinese culture. But for my team, there's no Mandarin language skill at the team. And so that's very intimidating for them to receive emails from the Chinese clients because they're like, I don't know how to say what, I don't want them to get mad. So it's really nice to be able to rely on someone like you to overcome that communication barrier for sure.
Right, totally. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you another thing. You talked about the Guānxì, and I think some, a lot of us are actually familiar with this concept, and it's not totally foreign to a lot of other cultures. We have some version of relationships. I actually think, though, that I still don't really understand it. So What?
Me either. I wouldn't say that I understand it very well because I'm 30 something. My understanding of Guanxi could be quite different from a person who are 50 plus years old, like my parents' generation. Their way of understanding relationship is different than me. Yeah, I would say young generation in general are more open-minded and depend on where you're from. My country is huge. China is, I think it's the number three largest country in terms of territory in the world. And then if you look at history, we used to be seven different countries. We have so many different cultures. If you're from the north and you're from the south or east or west, people behave a little bit differently. And then in general, people from the south, they are relatively more open-minded, and people from the north are more traditional. And then that's the reason why, when it comes to do international business, international trade, majority of the business are located in Eastern Coast area, Shanghai, from Shanghai all the way to Shenzhen, Hong Kong, that area. And then the manufacturing businesses are usually located in the central part of China, north or the west, depend on the industries. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So I think that's something that a lot of us would get lost in. And I don't know, like we'd need episodes and episodes to learn about Chinese history and
Yeah.
differences because,
Maybe I can give you an example. That way you can understand Guanxi better. So
yeah,
if you want to build a good relationship with a business person from the north, so for example, Hebei province or somewhere in northeastern part, chances are you probably need to drink a bit. They expect you to drink. Yeah. But if you're like doing business with a startup from Shenzhen, for example, and then the co-founder is a 20 or 30-year-old, something like a young guy, we probably don't need to drink. And then they probably value you based on your experience, what you can offer, and then they can make a decision very quickly without going to the drinking table. Yeah, I hope
mm,
this explains. Yeah.
that definitely is something I didn't know. So I appreciate that. Let
Mhm.
me ask
And
you
then
another one. Oh, go ahead.
I was in the cross-border summit 2 weeks ago. Yeah, a lot of successful sellers from the West. They share tips about how to handle that kind of guanxi relationship with factory owners. So even break down into step by step, buy gift for the factory owners' kids or grandkids. That's great. Yeah. And then drink with the factory owner and then talk about business on the table when you're about to finish. That's a correct way to do to build that kind of relationship. But I wouldn't agree that you can apply this technique or strategy to SaaS startups or e-commerce startups in Shenzhen. You don't have to do that. Yeah, so it also varies.
Yeah. I mean, by the same token, and you would know better than me, but I think anyone interacting with, whether it's a Chinese client or vendor, should expect to have things done for you that maybe you're not used to if you're not from this culture, or to have offers to do things for you. And it's a culture where people are doing things for each other, not just because they expect something in return, but that's the expectation, is that they're doing things for people. And that was something that took me a long time to get used to. You mentioned gift giving, but also just treating you to dinner or arranging your taxi or things like this. I mean, even when we were going to meet, I was like, oh, I can get my own hotel. You don't got to do that for me, right? That's just a cultural difference. You were just trying to do that for me. I'm for me, I know there's lots of differences in China, but is that kind of a universal rather thing that you can expect in general?
Right. Yeah.
You can. Oh, I'm just have this burning question because I have this mission to communicate this to people specifically in America, but also in the West. Is this right or wrong? A Chinese thinking face is you narrow the eyes and are like kind of staring to consider something.
Interesting. I never heard about this, like staring the eyes on somebody else or what?
You haven't seen this? Oh man, now I'm so
Maybe I'm
curious
not
if
the
we,
typical Chinese. I don't know.
yeah, or if we follow up later. But it's taken me many years to get used to. When people see me, they will stare at me and I'll think, from my culture, like, why are you staring me down, bro? Like, why are you mad at me? Uh,
Oh yeah, maybe because you're white. So your eye, I don't know whether it's blue, and then you have the hair color is different. And then depending on where you go to China, like if you go to the central part of China, Well, chances are a lot of Chinese locals, they have never seen foreigner before, so they just show that kind of curiosity. But if you go
Absolutely.
to Shanghai, Beijing, or Shenzhen, like they treat you like a person, whether you're from the West or Chinese, because they're getting used to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not so special there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have a friend from Germany. He told me a story like he lived in Shanghai for a couple of years, and sometimes he traveled to the different parts of China, especially the central and the northern part. Yeah, not in the cities. And then everywhere he goes, it's just like a lot of people just staring at him, even make him feel a little bit uncomfortable and unsafe. But actually, you're totally safe. It's just people are curious
Yeah.
because I've seen a lot of foreigners, especially blue eyes, like on the TV, social media, but never seen a person in real life standing in front of them. They just show that kind of curiosity. Yeah.
And we could probably play Greg guesses if he's right or wrong all episode, but we don't need to keep doing that. What do you think about, and we can take this conversation wherever you want to go too, JP, but what do you think about getting back to the nuts and bolts of business? It used to be a challenge to do cross-border payments between China and the US specifically, but even some other countries. Do you see that as friction in today's business
Mm,
relationship, or it's not a problem anymore?
I would say payment is a maybe a friction, a small friction that will affect the efficiency a bit, but it's not a huge factor when it comes to make a decision working with which vendor, simply because they offer the best payment method doesn't mean like we're going to work with them. Still, I think whether we're from China or from the West, when it comes to do business, it's the same. If you have great product or services, you have good reputation, we tend to work with you. Yeah. And then payment method is just one of the things I would say at the bottom of the list that we would consider. So I write an SEO blog. We have several types of blog readers. B2B manufacturing, like the factory or foreign trade companies. We also have e-commerce and then software SaaS. And then the first category, B2B e-commerce, what I found is they always tend to use wire transfer to
Mm,
do payment. It's very slow, but it's also one of the safest way to do payment. Yeah, and then the fee is also small compared to using Stripe, using Wise, I think. Yeah, and then when it comes to e-commerce or startups, SaaS, sometimes they just use the credit card to pay right away. It's quick. It's the same with the Western companies doing business with each other.
yeah,
Yeah,
interesting. That is one of those things that transcends cultural background. It's really more about your business niche, the
exactly.
common
Yeah.
practices in that industry.
And then big companies also have different payment processing procedures than startups because they have the financial department in charge of everything related to money. So every payment go in or go out need to be approved by the CFO or financial manager. Then yeah, then when it comes to business, doing business with this kind of companies, you expect a little bit delay. It's very normal. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. There was one more topic I wanted to cover, and now I'm blanking, and we're running on time here. Is there anything I should have asked JP that you were thinking like, why didn't he ask me that? I really wanted to talk about this specific thing.
Not really. I would say one thing that I have observed is like for business people from the West who have never been to China, I feel like their impression about China is quite different than what China really is. If you cross the border from Hong Kong to Shenzhen, you will feel it very vividly. I don't know if that's a correct word to say. Yeah, and then we are no different from other people from other countries. Just we have a little bit different ideology, and then culture. We have 5,000 years of culture, and then our country is huge. Yeah, we used to be seven different countries. People behave a little bit differently. Yeah, and yeah, if you have a chance to go to China, visit China, you understand more. You understand how Chinese consumer make decisions when it comes to buy a product from or services from foreign vendors, what they consider. Like I can tell you sometimes if the product is made from, say, Switzerland, Germany, USA, people tend to have this kind of natural feeling that, oh, it must be great. This is like the brand effect from the country. But
Yeah,
if your product is made, say, from India, Pakistan, maybe people's perception about your brand and the product quality would be different. But there's still a way for you to change your perception. The best way is you go to China, you talk to them face to face, you show them that, hey, our product is actually better than the competitors. Once they see the value, they will probably make a decision to work with you. So this kind of, how to say, customer journey might be a little bit different. The conversion journey might be different from the West, but the way people buy things, choose which vendor to work with, I would say it's the same. We're all human. We share the same psychology. Yeah. From that aspect, yeah, I think it's all solvable, these kind of challenges. And then you just find the correct way to do it. Either it's through a middleman like me, or you find a sourcing agent if you're doing e-commerce, or you just go to China, visit your clients or potential partners by yourself. I think you would probably change the way you think about my country and how to do business there. Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, and if you're listening and you are coming to China, you should definitely reach out to JP. And while I'm here, I'll meet up with you in Hefei or nearby. JP, where can they find you online if they're gonna come to China or they want to talk about coming to China? Because
Right.
this is just
I am
25 minutes together, right? But you've got a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, actually, before I share my contact, maybe I
Yeah.
can talk about one thing about the Shenzhen SEO conference.
Yeah, please.
Yeah,
That would be
okay.
fantastic.
Yeah, this is also a new thing that I tried to do. I hosted the Shenzhen SEO conference in 2019, but that was more like a test project. Yeah, and then we have a later saw a couple of other speakers on stage, but it's just half day event. And next year, I want to bring this event conference back. The mission is to connect Chinese businesses that do how to say exporting or sell products to international markets. I want to connect these kind of businesses with agencies, service providers from the West. So it's half Chinese, half Western, and then the conference will be 100% in, I would say 90%, maybe more than 90% in English. Yeah, the goal is to build that kind of bridge to connect the West with the Chinese SEO and digital marketing space. Yeah, so
Any chance
the
you're gonna
time
do
would be
that when I'm still in China?
I'm not really sure. It would be around mid-September. I'm not sure you will be still in China or you move back to the US.
Yeah, I can't invite myself. Damn, all right. Uh,
Okay.
no, it'll be awesome. Just having been invited to a small workshop that we got to do together in Shenzhen recently, that was a great experience. So I'd highly recommend that if once you start publishing details, JP, that would be a great time, I'm sure.
Right, yeah. And then besides the SEO conference, I try to do more this kind of small workshop like we did in October, one
Yeah.
and a half months ago. Yeah. Every 1 or 2 months, I will go back to one of the city in China, host this kind of meetup or workshop half day, and then talk to local startups or in businesses that do involve with international trade or in the marketing space as well. Yeah, I try to do more of this. And then if you very good at in SEO or either it's branding or digital marketing in general, reach out to me. Maybe I can arrange a session for you, give you an excuse to visit my country and then explore the business culture there. Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe
and
you can get some potential clients as well.
I think you could, and I just wanted to, I'm interrupting a little, but we talked about maybe Chinese clients are intimidated to speak with Western service providers, but I can say some people still listening here are probably intimidated thinking, I can't do that. I don't speak Mandarin. It seems very inaccessible. You should know though, like JP said, there's an entire another generation coming up that is fluent in English or very well versed, and they're actually very eager to practice speaking. So you're not going to be met with
Exactly.
any antagonism or adversarial kind of communication. So people are going to be approaching you. You're going to be exhausted by the end of the trip because you're going to have more than enough conversation. So you can feel totally comfortable coming over.
Yeah, I think you do the talk in 100% English, right? And then I've never seen a complaint or people say, "Hey, I don't understand what Greg was talking about."
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of
Because
them actually
although
ask me to share the slide that you presented, so they will digest it later. Yeah, you just feel like people, especially digital marketers in China, that do international, like involved with the international digital marketing space, work with Google, Facebook, they are eager to learn not just the language, but also digital marketing knowledge from the West as well. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, very cool. Thank you for mentioning that. I'm sure it's going to be a great event, man. Now I got to see if I can invite myself, or if you'll extend an invite, then I'll come on back. But
You will definitely be on my invitation list.
awesome. Phew.
Yeah.
The podcast was worth it. Just
All
kidding.
right. Yeah.
Where can people find you to reach out in the meantime before the
Yeah,
conference?
I'm mostly available on LinkedIn. I also play a bit on Facebook. I don't have Instagram. I don't have TikTok. And other than that, email is the best way. Just jp@seoactionblog.com. Yeah.
Awesome. JP, thanks for your time, man. Really appreciate you sharing your knowledge.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me here.